You made your first mark in fashion for the wide lapel ties. I look at the suit, one man to another, and I see a wide lapel.
Well, you know, this is second time around, really. This got narrow and then it got wider again.
Yeah.
But your lapels are okay.
Yes, I
do very well.
No one has ever given me a fashion award, Ralph, and perhaps never will. Let me talk about the beginning, though. Growing up in the Bronx, and the influence of your parents. How did they shape you? And was there anything there back in those years, a place in America that's very tough these days, that you looked and can cite as where you might have seen the Ralph Lauren who exists today?
Well, you know, it's if I had to paint America, it's what I grew up in the days of rock and roll.
Yeah.
I remember Earth Angel coming out and the beginning of really rock and roll and leather jackets and kids doing, you know, the Elvis. And so my period was an interesting period. The area in the Bronx was, my house was right next door to the schoolyard. I'd look out the window, see who was playing basketball, you know, and I played baseball across the park. So mine was a very, sort of the last of a breed. And sometimes I look at my kids and I say, I think they missed something that I had that at the time didn't know was great, but
what is it they might have missed?
I think there's a sort of freedom, especially in New York, that was great, and a sense of openness, being able to go out roller skating at night, you know, 10 o'clock at night, or bike riding, or I just think the world was a little simpler, a little more magical. There were more heroes, more things to think about.
People always want to come see the garage, and I thought it was an interesting time to do something different. And I love cars, and I think cars are the art, and I think that the clothes are fashion. And I think mixing the cars and the art of the cars and the fashion of the clothes is exciting. And they're not meant to be matched together. They're meant to be an extension of something you live with all your life. You grew up with cars. You knew your father's car. You knew your uncle's car. You have a car. And the cars are art, but they're also stylish. They also move. They're also an exciting part of our culture. Well, I couldn't afford a car for a long time. And that passion came when I couldn't afford the cars, and I wanted one. I'm not a collector, but I love the cars, and I bought cars because I wanted to drive them. And then I'd see another car and I wanted to drive that, and I didn't know what to do. The car I bought in the first place, so I kept them all, and all of a sudden I have a collection. They're like children. They all have something else to say. I think they'll come in and say, why is he taking all these cars and mixing it with clothes? I think it's exciting for me to show some of the things because I love them, and I've been inspired by cars in many different ways, and fashion for me is part of living and part of your impression of who you are and what you want to say about yourself. I think cars have a strong part of our culture. I wanted to show, really, I think, you know, I started in the men's business, and when I went into the women's business, I thought it was a much more difficult world to design into because of all the intricacies of women's wear. So it was always an accomplishment for me to do women's clothes. I think they're both nice, but I think a tuxedo, whenever one of the girls wears a tuxedo, she gets a big applause. It's always really more, in a way, more unique and more sexy. You
know, Clint Eastwood, in one movie, the last movie he did was about a cowboy.
The Unforgiven.
The Unforgiven. I think Kevin Costner's movie was heroic. You know, he was a guy who stood against a world that was saying, we're going to tear this down. All of a sudden he saw this world that was going to be the last, you know, the last of a breed. My sense, and I don't know where it accumulated. I didn't have a plan. I didn't have a sense of. My sense was I had a direction of doing what I was doing, and as I learned it, I started in the tie business. I watched the ties being designed. I said, why can't we do this? Why can't I do that? People I was working with, they said they didn't get it. And after I watched other people do my ties, and the ideas that I had were coming out in other places, and I said, wait a minute, that was my idea. And so
that guy's making all the money.
Well, I didn't even think about money at the time. And And I didn't have any training. I didn't go to school for design. So it was purely coming out of me. Where it came, I don't know. It just came out. It was a taste level that I didn't know I was developing or had. It just came out. I wasn't consciously saying I could do this.
What was the point of view, though? You said you had a point of view.
Well, the point of view really, you know, it's at a certain point, if you're a young man, let's say I was in the, you call it the fashion business. I didn't call it that, but it was, you're in the products, you're in the fashion business.
You didn't call it the fashion business?
I never thought of myself in the fashion business.
And you don't now?
I have to think I am because I am.
Okay.
I do.
I was going to say we had a bit of truth here.
But you're in, no, what you're in, there's two ways. There's people that make products.
Yeah.
And they say, hey, I'm going to make this machine, I'm going to sell it to all these people. There are people that make products, but the product is part of their life. They live what they are. It is not apart from them. So, is that hard to explain? I'm
no,
not
I understand
sure.
it, but let me just take this. Yeah. Let me just go to one thing that is a videotape. This is the late, much-loved Audrey Hepburn. From this tape, it's clear to me that she cared about you. She is introducing you at the Lifetime Achievement Award, I guess maybe last year or several years ago. Hepburn on Ralph Lauren. Let me just talk about the idea again, because it interests me, because it is so pervasive today in our culture. And this notion, it is said that General George Patton, for example, had an image in his mind, in his head, of what a general was like. And he became that. Mm-hmm. And it became him. Right. He lived it, breathed it, so that at some point it was him. Is there any analogy to you along those lines?
Yes, yes. You know, we spoke earlier about dreams, and I said, that's a word I really don't like. And I think you were right about dreams. I think we grow up with aspirations. We grow up with a sense of accomplishment. Where are we going to go? What are we going to be? And in the time I was growing up, you know, it was about going to school, getting a job. What are you going to do? You're going to become a teacher? You're going to become a doctor? What are you going to be? And what are the aspirations and why? Well, the aspirations when I was growing up, to a degree, is, you know, get married, have children, have a nice home. You know, it's still the same thing today, but it's changed maybe slightly. But there were aspirations and dreams of accomplishment in terms of a life you want to live. And so I had the dreams of a life I want to live. Love to horseback ride, to just have a good life. And they are dreams. And in doing what I did, my clothes were part of the dream. My clothes were part of the world. You can't separate clothing. In my world, you can't set the environment away from what you're wearing. So if you wore a pinstripe suit in North Carolina on your farm,
it wouldn't work.
No, but when you get on, now let me ask you, if you're on your farm now and you're getting dressed, you sort of feel like a farmer?
Everything I've always done has been for my own emotion, and it was never done for a brand or a label. It's because I feel it. I remember meeting a friend of mine, her name was Ina Hyde, and she then told me that she had breast cancer. I went to the fashion industry and said, let's go after this and give it some exposure and support, and she passed away. Then one day I said, you know, what else can I do? I worked on breast cancer. I certainly didn't solve it, but maybe there's more I can do. And I went to Sloan Kettering, talked about people in underserved areas are dying because they can't get help. I felt that sensitivity, helping someone who doesn't have the funds, who doesn't have the know-how. Cancer is not only for the poor and it's not for the rich. It happens to everybody.
People are here today, and in England and in Milan, we have a walk and a march for a very good cause. And I want to thank you.
We're here tonight because Ralph Lauren is a lifesaver. Long before everybody was wearing the pink ribbons, Ralph Lauren was galvanizing the fashion industry's response to breast cancer.
Incredibly generously, they will fund the Ralph Lauren Center for Breast Cancer Research, a world-class research facility at the Royal Marsden's Chelsea Hospital.
Cancer is scary. It's scary on every level, and whatever I can do in this world to help a little bit, I try to do.
It used to be cancer was a whisper, or breast cancer was a whisper. Women didn't even talk about it, didn't know about it. Today, it's not that way. And I think that's progress.
We're talking about research into the future. This is an ongoing commitment that you stay with.
I'm enormously grateful to Ralph Lauren for his generosity. You should know that what you do saves lives and gives hope to thousands of people.